when he looked at my art, he said, you're already there as far as the art goes, the art skill. Like you're good for the art skill. But he told me to now give your art purpose, which is
Mhm.
storytelling.
Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the Comics Wellspring podcast, a show where we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today on the show, we have creator Darryl Murphy joining us. And we talk about why storytelling is the most important skill to learn, why outlines and storyboards are crucial for comic book creators, and why you should never overlook those in your life and spend time with your friends and family. All of this and so much more on today's Inspired Inc. You're associated with the was it WTF Comics as well?
Yes.
Nice. How
Yes,
did
sir.
you get associated with them? I'm gonna have them on the show. I didn't realize I was booking both of you guys on the same week this week too.
Oh, that's fine. Let's see, it was 2021. I just got out of the military and I was posting online and I saw a suggestion online as a friend and I reached out and they got back to me. It was Jack that got back to me.
Oh,
And
cool.
we just started talking from there and I sent them my work and we went from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you were saying you got out of the military. What'd you do? What service were you in?
I was in the army. I was a religious affairs specialist and
Oh,
it was pretty good experience.
what got you to go down that path? That's really interesting.
Well, I was always like curious of being in the military, and it runs in my family as well.
Oh, nice.
Uh, so once I got in, it was like one of those like goals that I achieved, and that's what I like doing, like setting goals in life and achieving them.
Yeah,
So
no, definitely. That's the way to go about it. And I mean, that's the way comics are set up as well. When you're
exactly.
putting out your stuff and like just trying to achieve the one thing you're working so hard towards.
Yeah,
Do you think that military experience has really like amplified what you do when you're making comics and your process behind it?
I feel like it does because now I have more discipline and patience. So um, it's like my my character developed more when I was in the military, and that also I can feel that coming out as well as it in my artwork.
Oh,
And
cool.
like before the military, it was 2015 is when I really jumped into the comics. Um, I was still trying to get the feel of things, and once I networked and met amazing people, the information that they poured into me, I was able to use that to help better myself. Military wise, that was a kind of like a stepping stone, and it helped develop my personality, my character. I wasn't, shy anymore, or not. I wasn't too, say, scared to put things on paper and to share. You know,
Yeah,
but
that confidence that comes behind it.
yeah,
Do
definitely. It was a great experience, and I feel like it really did help better me.
I mean, discipline and patience. I mean, those were the key words, you know? And when it comes to making art and to, making comics, especially, you need to have that discipline to put the work in. And you
Yeah,
need to know how to like be able to sit down and do something as close to every day as possible to make that dream and that goal come true. And
exactly.
with that, it takes a lot of patience to know, my skill, my level, like you're going to work on this craft for a very long time.
Yes.
How long have you been working on your craft? What type of hours and like years have gone into this?
Um, well, I got into comics in 2015.
Oh, cool.
Before that, I've been drawing for a very long time. So, like grade school, like high school, and my work wasn't as good then, like it is now, of course. But I feel like I feel like drawing for those years really helped me develop a really good uh, mental setting to be
Hmm.
able to create comics, because comics is really about storytelling. So I love to tell stories. I love to watch movies. All of that, all this stuff really helps when it comes down to putting that art on paper, make these stories visually appealing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, it's cool that you really, I mean, again, go back, discipline, patience,
Yeah.
being able to like pull through with your drawing and your artwork and having the patience to see it grow. I feel a lot of creators may stop very early on because what comes out isn't like what they expect at first. And
Oh
they
yeah.
want to be on a certain level. And you're just like having to accept like where you are at that period of your life and know that it's going to continue to grow. And
Yeah.
as you continue to grow, those skill sets will happen and you'll be able to do stuff like sequential is way different than doing just covers and cool posing and everything.
Yeah, it really is. I agree. I agree. I talk to people a lot about sequential pages and how to how to start before even getting to drawing your sequential pages, because it's like you're the director.
Hmm.
You're the actor, you're the writer. So I made a video a while back. I was explaining the process, the steps to get to that. So it's either you want to be a writer, a penciler, inker, colorer, or letterer, or you can pick either one that you want to do, or you can do all. But creating a comic book is like putting a movie on paper.
Hmm.
So your your story, that's your guideline. I always say it's your blueprint. So if
Yep.
you don't have a blueprint, then you're trying to give yourself a headache. To
Yeah.
me, anyway, that's my personal opinion. But hey,
I agree. I agree completely. Putting it down and at least having it, you can have everything in your head all you want. And that's great. That's awesome to have everything built up in your head. But until you at least put it on paper to be able to look at it and make those edits and adjustments, you're not going to
yeah,
see the whole picture. Um,
exactly.
you got to have that blueprint and you got to be like, what's realistic? What isn't? Does
Yeah,
this actually work? Because people don't just go walk out and start building houses. People steps to start
yeah,
building a house. And if you start building a house without a blueprint that's been examined and edited and made sure, like, okay, guys, this is locked in. We're going to do this. Everything looks great. Then move forward. That house is going to fall apart pretty quickly.
yeah. Like
Um,
building a house on wet land.
yeah. I think, especially creative endeavors, a lot of people forget that you need that first step. They think you could just kind of like vomit out a comic or vomit out a movie or musical piece when there's so many integral steps to build before that. And this is the one kind of career that people don't realize, like, oh, there is steps. Like we are like, builders, we are like construction workers. We're constructing stories, we're constructing art. They follow a step-by-step process. There's a certain formula for us to do this correctly too. You may do it differently from everyone else slightly, but
Yeah,
the basis is that your blueprint should exist no matter what, essentially.
yeah. That's what took me so long to get Revagen done. It's like years back, I was like, when I was drawing my comic books for Revagen, I was the story was in my head, but I was never like wanting to write the story out.
Hmm.
So I had to that's where that discipline came in. I said, okay, Darryl, just write the story step by step. Figure out what you want your where you want your story beats to be, and your 3-part acts. So I said, okay, let me get a good introduction, and me put some climax in there, and then have a good ending for the first issue. So once I did that, then I was able to follow through smoothly with developing the characters and making sure the character had great personalities. And then after after I got the characters done, that's when I was able to start on my roughs, so I can get the panels drawn out correctly so that it will be appealing to the reader. making sure every page, the last panel wanted that reader to turn to the next page.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's like, the formula behind it. And it's good that you're talking about deconstructing, because when you look at the background behind comics, it seems like what you're given, you're just like, man, this guy has so much skill. Man, this person has, just the ability I don't have. Like, how can they do this? And like, why can't I? And it's because of
yeah,
what you're saying. It's because you did that background work. You built the stage, and then you got to put on the performance, and the performance is after months and years of practice and everything. It's not just something that you just walked up and decided to do.
yeah,
This was like, you put that discipline, you put the work in, and not a lot of people realize that hard work does pay off.
yeah,
It just may take a little longer for some people, but your hard work will go far, even if it's personal, if it's in public, whatever
yeah,
your audience is. But really, it matters of what like you put into it, and your heart and soul is what's going to show.
yeah. It's people they get frustrated because they try to skip steps and they don't they'll see other people's success, then they'll try to go around things to try to get to that point. But when they're not getting there, then they get frustrated. But in this industry, it's not a good thing to skip steps. I feel like you should, take the time out, dedicate yourself to your story, create your own story, and share it with people at Comic Cons or other events, and talk to strangers. And
Hmm.
that's a really good thing to do from my experience, because when I did it, those strangers talked to other people that they may or may not have knew, and then those people talked to someone else, and then people got back to me. Then now I'm here. You know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And that's what it takes. It may take years, it may take months. Some people, I mean, perfect example, I'm in my early 30s. I know people 10 years younger than me that have put out their first book already and are on book 4 or 5 or something. I know people 10 years older than me that are putting out their first book, or, are barely on issue
Yeah,
4 or 5. And it's like, you can't compare yourself to like others. You really
yeah,
can't, because artistic values, what we interpret in our lives to, help us become creators. You were in the military, and then you shifted over to comics. Like, you've lived a life essentially, and now you're
yeah.
making art. And just like, I've always talked on the show, I've been a musician and became an artist. Like, I lived a good chunk of my life before I ever even went into comics. And then some people
Oh
just
yeah,
straight out into comics, like that's just how they exploded. This kid Kevin that we just interviewed, wonderful, wonderful, amazing kid. But he's doing so many great, amazing things. And there are so many times when I'm talking to him, like, man, this dude is so young and he's just killing it. Like, I wish
yeah.
I was there at that age doing that.
I
But
I, I agree. I say the
good.
same thing. It's like I went to the military kind of in the middle of things. Like went to the military in 2019. 2015 is when I started with the comics, and then that's when I met Kevin Eastman in San Diego, and I got my jump with the Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
So things kind of slowed down a little bit for me. Then I went to the military, and then when I jumped back into comics after I got out of the military, I already had that discipline set. So it showed. I was able to pour out all of my time and energy into my art, and I was not comparing myself to others, and I was believing in myself and knowing that I can be what I set myself out to be. And
What do you
that's
what do you do when like discipline fails? Like when things are rough and things, aren't happening and you're not feeling inspired, or maybe you're just distracted. Like, how do you prevail when discipline just seems like impossible to get through?
I go to the comic book shop. I'll probably go to a store and find something that's appealing to me, like Marvel collectibles, DC collectibles. Um, Sometimes I'll just take a break from the art, go out, enjoy outside, enjoy life, travel. Those things are important, Because every artist is going to have a day like that. Where you're like, I don't feel like drawing today, or my creativity is not there. And I feel like getting out and getting away from your desk for uh, quite some time can help. It can also help motivate and inspire you to come back to your desk and start drawing again.
I
That's
love
how
that.
it works for me. So
No, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Sometimes you just need to stop looking at the page, It's kind of like, I was just talking to someone about real life drawing versus like taking a comic book and being like, I'm going to draw this and pulling from that. So like real life drawing, you just need to kind of go out there and it can re-inspire you. It could show you the 3D-ness of everything. It can show you the folds and it can show you how things look. And then when you just look at a comic, it's just like 2D. So
yeah,
what you do with like real life, it kind of you got to pull from real life, not only just artistically when you're practicing to learn how to draw, but to become re-inspired and to
yeah,
become reinvigorated and to have that motivation and to kind of remind yourself why you do this.
yeah.
Did you start off with comics with just pure passion, like for yourself, or did you have like a purpose going out when you started doing your first book?
I had passion. Like I was always drawing something. Um, Back then, my mom would buy me computer paper. Dad would get me pens or pencils, and I would just draw everything that I could possibly see. I was back then drawing from imagination, um, just trying to improve myself each and every time. And I just loved doing it. And I realized it was a passion after there were several instances where I didn't even know I was drawing, and I was drawing. So I'll
Nice.
be in school drawing, and my teacher would talk to my parents, and my teacher was concerned at first because she thought I was paying attention in class. Until she tested me one day, and I answered a question that she thought I was paying attention to because I was drawing a picture. So it years after years, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do when I get older. But I had so many people telling me, like, you need to focus on getting a real job. Um, this is not going to, you know, feed your family or anything. But that turned out to be false.
I love hearing that. That's like, it's man, who was I watching that just it was like, oh man, I can't remember who it was. But they were talking about how like everything seems delusional until you succeed and then you're a genius. And
Yeah,
all your plans and all your creative stuff, they'll call you delusional. They'll say it's a delusion. It's never going to happen. And then you do it and it comes out to be true. And all of a sudden you're a genius. And
yeah,
so delusion until you make it.
yeah.
But that's
Like,
bizarre.
what is it? What's the quote? The quote from Bruce Wayne: "Everything is impossible until someone else does
Dude, yeah, exactly. Yep. Mhm.
it."
It's completely true. And you got to defy those odds because you know what? Those it's not that the odds are against you, it's that, you know, the faith of like I feel like the faith in art is against so many of us creatives. People look down upon it and people don't like enjoy it when it's like that never always baffled me because everybody with their regular day jobs and their regular lives, how they could conduct themselves, they
Yeah,
use art. They go to museums, they watch movies, they read, they do X, Y, and Z to escape that reality. And here we are trying to craft those realities for them to escape into. And it's like,
yeah,
man, you have to be giving us more credit than like whatever anything else because we're helping you survive this reality that you're trying to escape from and we're providing that escape for you. So it's like whenever people put down art and artists saying it can't happen or you're wasting your time or anything, you're just like, no, I'm actually probably doing this not only for me but for you in a sense, like the audience.
yeah,
Like I'm trying to help you like just get through life or a situation or anything like that, and it comes from creating.
yeah. That's our superpower and
Yeah.
our will. And I still there's certain quotes that people may think is kind of cheesy, but like I mentioned the Batman one, Bruce Wayne, but then you have Thanos. Thanos said something that really stuck with me, and he said the hardest choices require the strongest will.
Yeah.
And I feel like that uh, every artist should have that on their wall. You know, um, when they don't feel like drawing or feel like giving up on a project, just take a look at that quote. You know, it will really help you get back to what you're doing. It'll help you do one of the most important things, which is to finish
Hmm.
a project. There's so many people that are starting projects and they're not finishing them, and then they're wondering why they're not moving up from their position that they are now.
Man, I got to meet Neil Gaiman once, and the one thing he told me, when I asked for advice as a creator, that's exactly what he said. He said, "Just whatever it is, finish telling your story. Like, just
Yeah,
finish telling it, and whatever form that means, just finish your story and move on to the next one, and finish that one, and continue on."
yeah,
And that's the best thing you could do as a creator is just finish telling your story because even if it's not being made right now, like a finished story can be put into the world a lot easier and better, and it already exists. So like put it out
yeah,
there, show the world like you've put so much into it. And I don't think a lot of people realize how hard it is to actually do that one task. We all
yeah,
even if you're open and not complete that you're like, I'm gonna do it. It's just I don't know why I can't right now.
yeah. You know, I've been there. You know, it's especially at the beginning when I'm like, okay, I want to start this out perfect. So,
Hmm.
uh, like Brian Stelfreeze, he told me something that really sticks with me to today. And there's a lot of artists out here that's doing this, but they're focusing too much on trying to better their art, and they're failing when it comes down to storytelling.
There
And
you go.
he told me when he looked at my art, he said, you're already there as far as the art goes, the art skill. Like you're good for the art skill." But he told me to now give your art purpose, which is
Hmm.
storytelling. And when once he told me that, I spoke with him for about an hour and a half. But once he told me how to do it, like he actually showed me how to do it as well, um, which is something that nobody had ever done,
Hmm.
except for when I met Jason Keith. Jason Keith, the Marvel Colors. He teaches me things. He'll tell me something, and these guys is like they'll look at your art and they'll read your art like a book. You know, they'll read you like a book,
Yeah.
and because they've been there. You know, they've experienced the same things that we've experienced. So it's all about learning, being open to everything, any type of information that you can get, even if it's negativity, if it's bad critiques. Take that, apply it anyway. If it works, use it. If it doesn't work, then that's okay. You still win at the end of the day because it's toughening your skin up to be able to take those tough critiques.
Yeah, feedback is one of those things where you got to know what works, what doesn't, and don't be afraid to test out what you think isn't going to work either, because you might
Yeah,
be surprised on like, man, I was doubting this feedback and I didn't think it was applicable, or I didn't think it would really take me anywhere, and it could transform it. So even at least giving that feedback a chance is better than not doing anything with it. You're basically
yeah.
wasting your time if you don't even apply some thought and your own criticism to feedback. um and I really like what you're saying about storytelling. Do you have any like maybe one or two things that like really exemplified your way of storytelling through art? Like what really transformed that for you? What really made it click? Or maybe the gear like finally like, oh, I this now it's storytelling and not just images on a page.
Um, good question because when I was first doing it, it did look like there was just images on each panel. So what clicked was I was watching the movie I was watching Riddick. I was watching some of the old Spider-Man movies
Nice.
with I was trying to see how the camera angles were switching from different scenes.
Mm.
So when I saw that, and like for example, you have a person that's reaching out, looks like he's reaching out to you in a panel,
Hmm.
but in the next panel, that person is actually reaching down to uh, help another person get up.
Okay.
And on the first panel, is the foreshadowing. It looks like okay, the character is coming at the reader.
Hmm.
So when you switch to the second panel, you zoom out. This is what I say when you're a director. You're just like you're the director and the camera crew, but you
Hmm.
zoom out and you'll make your character smaller so the reader can see what's actually going on,
Ah,
and you'll show them
reveal.
picking up. Yeah. So things like that really clicked to me, and I was like, okay, now I know how I'm going to start doing my stories from now on. I want it to look like as if someone's watching a movie instead of flipping through a magazine.
Ah, there you go. No, that's a good way to make it click. Like, and watching those camera angles, it's not just for you to be like, oh, we're watching a movie. We're obviously going to see something on screen. Like, many of these directors are so deliberate on what's being shown. And it's like what you're
Yes,
saying there's the setup, the scene, and the reveal.
yeah,
And knowing that lets you know how to like pace your comics because there's progression with each part of that. The setup,
yeah,
where you see where we're at, the scene where reaching down and like you start to see the other person reaching up, but the reveal is like, oh, it's not, he's not alone, he's reaching down towards to help somebody. Like, that's all progression. And
yeah,
I guess what you're saying, storytelling is progression through the pages and to keep it moving and not just like, oh, he's reaching out, oh, and he's still
yeah,
reaching out, I think he's done something, but we don't know what's happening yet. Oh, okay, now there's a hand on this fifth panel he's grabbing. It's like, no, like make it happen and don't make it just like stall out with flashiness, what you can do, because flashiness is
yeah,
all a big way to, kind of elude storytelling and to make it like kind of like, okay, are you being flashy or are you just showing off? Is that what you're doing? And
yeah,
that's a lot of I've seen from just especially inexperienced creators who are trying to learn, they're trying to experiment, but
yeah,
knowing that line between flashiness and storytelling is a big difference too.
yes. You got to make it mix, and it's like when you're when you're creating these panels, it's a really good thing to have your. I like to use the rule of thirds, and
Hmm.
also make sure you have a good flow going throughout the page because like you want your character you want the character's actions to kind of persuade the reader to go to that next panel
Yeah.
right beside it. So if the next panel is like on the right of the page and the third panel is on the in the middle of the page on the left, it maybe has some kind of object or character doing something in that second panel that will allow the reader or persuade the reader's eyes to go straight down to that third panel on the left.
There you go.
So
Talk about like setup, like and reveal right there. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
using those first two panels as like, here's the setup. This is the scene on panel two, and then panel three is the reveal. You always want to get their eyes to go to that reveal, almost like a page turn practically to keep it fluid on the page. And
yeah,
exactly what you're saying when it comes to like flow of panels. That's so important. And that's such an easy thing to mix up because especially with, non-comic book readers, a lot of our family, a lot of our friends that don't read comics that we're selling our books to, you want them to enjoy it and read it thoroughly and want to
yeah,
read more, get more interested in this. But if they're confused on like panel layouts and being like, do I go here and then here and then here? And like you want it to be consistent. It's kind of like, it is, I could see why it's confusing for some people. It's kind of like, when you start reading manga for the first time and you've been reading, Western comics this entire time and you're like, oh, this panel layout's way different. But once you understand that panel formula, it's fluid. And
yeah,
even like an introductory manga reader, it should be pretty easy for them to catch on and not get confused, especially the way you do your dialogue. That's a big pointer where it's like, okay, this
Yeah.
definitely isn't the right panel I need to go to. It's this one. Um, but helping guide that reader in any form, any possible way to make it more fluid for them and not like confusing them along the line on which brick
Yeah.
to pull next.
I feel like it's a good thing for creators to, especially pencilers, to mark your characters. Um, basically, like we spoke about before, set up the play.
Hmm.
Like when I was in Chicago in 2015. I was doing my acting career. I used to act. I was working on the film Chirac with Spike Lee,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, Spike Lee's. When I met him, I was like, he's really cool, but when it comes down to the film, he's very serious.
Yeah, no, I can
So
imagine.
at this point, I was a stand-in, a backup actor, and he would have these X's on the floor and during the set. So he asked me to stand at this X and don't move it from this X. There was a camera. There's a guy from the camera crew. He tried to move me to another spot, and Spike Lee didn't like that. So Spike Lee moved me back. He said, "No, I want him right here." But that was for a specific reason, because he wanted. It was the way the camera was showing on that one scene. It was blocking off a part of this army truck. Uh, the back of my head and the helmet was blocking off part of this army truck that Spike Lee didn't want to show. And
Oh,
I when I didn't know what was going on until I actually saw the film and I started understanding more about how directors work. And the same thing happened. The same thing goes into our comics. Like when it comes down to the rule of thirds and placing your most important uh, detail and most important information in your panel, placing that right in the middle or at least to the right, wherever you want your reader's eye to go on that
there.
one panel.
Hmm.
That's where you need to put your information at. Then the same information that you have in that panel, it needs to transfer transfer to the next panel, because if it doesn't, then you're going to lose the reader, and you're going to confuse yourself as well. Because like it's okay, it's a bird in this panel. Why isn't that bird in this panel either? Or why isn't a part of that bird in this panel?
Yep. Dude, yeah, that totally makes sense. And I see a lot of those like moment to moment panels where like there's parts missing, and typically it's deliberate. A good writer, artist, editor will make it
Yeah,
deliberate when there's progression or things added or missing in these panels. But sometimes that is just like a writer, artist, editor mistake, that like things are missing and it's like not making sense and it gets confusing in that sense.
yeah,
But being a master, like dude, like Spike Lee is just brilliant. I mean, Mobile Blues, She's Got to Have It, like Do the Right Thing, like dude, all
yeah,
those movies are just so phenomenal and top tier, from like a characterization, from story and plot, and to like have a message behind your
yeah,
movie. I mean, talk about a phenomenal creator doing craft at just top tier level.
yeah.
um, I'm a big Spike Lee fan. I've studied a
Okay.
lot. I got so excited. Imagine Spike Lee writing a comic and working with someone on that. I think it'd be the
Oh
coolest thing.
yeah.
But yeah, like analyzing, film construct and film terminology isn't probably required as a comic book creator, but it is going to help you become a better comic book creator for sure.
Yeah,
Looking at those film, like the way they do cinematography, camera movements, rule of thirds, all those type of things, the golden, forget what it's called, but it's like a golden, I forgot. It's like a swirl and whatnot. I can't think of my name. But like, there's these, images that they use, and I've seen them deconstructed where you could find all the way it's framed. That's going to make like for very high quality, storytelling and paneling within comics. And people forget,
yeah.
like, all these movies start off as storyboards, which are essentially like
Thank
very
you.
rough comics, like,
Thank
and
you. Storyboards can help. Storyboards really do help when it comes down to creating comics. and I was a storyboard artist before I started diving into comics. So,
Oh, rad. Oh, okay, so you know the importance behind that, like even
yeah,
as a writer, like I feel like writers should be storyboarding their comics. I try to at least draw out what's going to be on this page that I'm sending to an artist before I send
yeah,
it to be like, is this realistic? Like I'm asking for 5 or 6 panels, but can you fit all 5 and 6 panels? And if I can't do a crappy little doodle in that, then it's like, okay, we got to X some stuff and edit it for sure. Because
yeah,
if I'm not able to pull it off with this random sketch, then I don't expect an artist to do that 10 tier. And part of your blueprint, you know what I mean? It's part of what goes into making your blueprint of like, well, we've tested this and this didn't work. So we're revising it. And then your final outcome is going to become that blueprint.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
And
It's
so with your comics, like what is like the biggest thing that you've not only had to like overcome as a creator the past few years, but like what's been your biggest win the last few years on making comics? And it could be a personal, it could be a professional, or even like an artistic like point.
my biggest win was um, studying one day after completing was Miserable Monsters 2 and Revagen issue 2. I was studying one day and then I got an email from Upper Deck. And
Congrats on that too. That's you
thank
pretty
you.
position, yeah.
So from there, when I saw what they wanted me to work on, which was a Marvel project. They won't let me say what yet, but I'm working on Marvel projects now. That was a huge win from uh, creating those comics. And another one is also the knowledge from creating those comics, because when I was working on these comic books, it only made me better. It made me want to make the next issue even more better than the first issue. So
Nice.
that's a personal thing, and also ties into professional wise. So um, I have the first thing was Revagen issue 1. Once I completed that, I had was it? Yeah, I had to sign a contract with Nickelodeon. So I did the Ren and Stimpy T-shirt design that they now sell at Box Lunch.
Oh,
So
sick.
yeah, things can, when you create projects like that and you actually put them out there, like do the footwork, put yourself out there, the possibilities are endless. Like you never know what can happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about it, man. It's some major win for you the past few years and doing all this. And it's
Oh yeah,
crazy because like you're just trying to make comics. You're just trying to make the fun thing that we all grew up reading and holding. And it's turning into like a life and it's turning into a career for you at this point. Um,
yeah. Then
did you
been a guest at a Comic Con, so that
mm.
was really good win too.
What conventions are you planning on hitting conventions this year? How's that looking for you?
I am. I'm going to hit up the Boone Comic Con, Boone, North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to do Fayetteville Comic Con. I'm going to do the Heroes Con.
Oh, cool.
Um, I want to do Baltimore again. Hopefully, I can get out to San Diego before it's too late. But uh, I'm probably going to, like last year, I was doing several cons, but this year I'm going to do less cons
Mm,
because I want to focus more on submitting
nice.
than in finishing projects. Because if I go to the cons, then of course it's taking me away from my desk,
Mhm.
and I won't be able to get as much things finished. In. So
Trying to find that balance between like I need to put X amount of time and effort into promoting and getting my stuff out there. I also need to spend X amount of time on, my personal projects and getting those done. But then you also have to spend X amount of time on your day job and your work and then anything else that goes outside of like
yeah,
family and friends and a social life and not being burnt
definitely.
too.
Definitely. That's important. Like for all artists, if you're watching this, please spend time with your family. That's very important. Like
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. Sometimes like we get in that zone where when we're drawing, it's like everything else stops, and
Hmm.
then to us, but to your family, time is still going, and they're like, okay, he's been in the office for a long time, or he hasn't answered his phone in a couple hours. What's going on?
Yep, exactly. It's there's a lot of, we're very fortunate to have people who understand like what goes into all of this, but you have to give them the time and love and sincerity behind all of it too, because,
Yeah,
as much as we love this passion, not everyone has passions the way we do, and that's a different mindset, that's a different feeling, that's a different way of life than anyone else. And
yeah,
so finding that balance, because once that's stripped away, like who's going to be your cheerleader? Who's going to be there on your side to keep you going and to keep you motivated?
yeah,
And much as we do this, personally and for personal reasons and all that, having those people by your side are and you take that away, stuff starts to lose its meaning after a while.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then it's not that it becomes selfish, it's that, it just loses a purpose, and you're like, I have no one to share this with, and this excitement who's equally excited for my wins as me. We all have family, I mean, we all have friends that encourage us, we all have like close people in our lives that continue to keep us going, but your close relationships, your like inner family that you live with and that you share your lives with, those are the ones that you need to nurture just as much as you need to nurture your art.
yes, yeah. I agree. Definitely. It's 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 like you'll have like you take your artwork to some of the professionals at Comic Cons. They'll tell you to you know ignore the distractions.
Hmm.
It's there's a thin line right there where you have to know when to like make sure you're not getting bothered by distractions, and when you need to make sure that you're getting away from that desk so you can spend time and be present. It's like, especially if you have kids, it's important to be present in their lives. Even if I think it's a bit tougher for artists with kids. I have
Hmm.
three.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
so it's like, they're running around your office while you're trying to draw, and I think it's just a parent thing where we can just multitask. But it's the same the way to, because there's a lot of artists that are parents who get frustrated a lot with their kids, but if they're at Comic Con, you have kids yelling and running around, all that noise, or your drawing just fine. You have to try to channel that same energy when you're at home and your kid is like crying and running around screaming and whatnot.
yeah, dude. Yeah. It's, talk about this with like Mark and Doug Knight and all sorts of people, like doing, having to know, like, okay, I get off of work and I could either go work on my projects or I could spend family time. And then I stay up, at night and work on my projects. And
Ooh.
sometimes that's the answer, that's the only option. And that's where discipline comes in, and patience. Drawing back to that, is that the discipline to go back at the end of your very long day to be like, I need to work just a little bit on this, even if it's just a little bit, I got to do something. And the patience knowing that it isn't going to be done overnight or in 7 days. This is going to take a month, and I got to be there for it. And I got to have the patience within myself to know like a little bit of progress is better than none.
Yeah,
And even if I take a break, being patient with it and letting it sit and letting it grow, and not just rushing out work and not rushing out stuff that you're going to be unhappy with. Like it can all
yeah.
happen, it can all work. You just got to be there for it.
Gotta take your time and miss mistakes.
Yeah.
It was like, a lot of people have asked me about how long I actually draw, and when I tell them, like, they can't believe it. But some of us artists, we're most of us artists, we're up like 3, 4 in the morning, and we're
Yeah.
drawing.
Hmm.
And those are the ones that I'm proud of, because I there are a lot of times when I am up that long when I'm drawing, but then there are times when I have these periods of time where I just fall asleep at a certain time.
Yeah.
So, but if you can tap into that zone where you're up to like 2, 3 in the morning drawing, then that's perfect. But make sure you don't burn yourself out, because that can
Yeah.
happen too. Like I'll be drawing like full 2D figures on paper, and I get to one panel, and then I'm just stopping at the roughs, the stick figures, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, at least those roughs and everything, you're like, all right, I've already made progress on the next spot. There's no reason to be hard on yourself at that point, like
Yeah,
putting the work in, dude, even just doing it for half an hour a day, you're already doing it more than like 90% of the population. Like you're already
yeah.
ahead of, just, and I think we are all way harder on ourselves than anyone else will be harder on us.
And
And
people
that's,
will see that. They,
yeah, 100%.
they, um, there was this one guy. We're really close friends now, kind of like family. But I call him Tony the Toy Rat. You guys may know him. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tony the
yeah,
Toy Rat. So
super awesome
he
dude.
uh he sees my potential. He sees the hard work I put in. He When he noticed it, he acknowledged it right away, and it was a reminder for me. Um, like people are really watching, and even if some people aren't saying anything, they're watching. If you're posting your work, you're putting things out there, if people see the drive that you have, they will work with you. Um, because there are a lot of artists who are starting things and they're giving up, and they may lose an audience they never knew they had. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
so but he saw that, and we started working together, and now we're working on this the game show called The Sculpt. So I'll be a judge on that game show. He selected me for my book to be one of these sculpts to be made during the show.
Oh,
So one of the sculptors are going to win at the end of the show. They're gonna win $1,000, and then they're going to have different episodes. And at the end of the show, all of the winners are going to compete again for $10,000.
oh, dang,
So
cool.
I think this is a really good thing to premiere at the Comic-Con in April. It's coming up,
Nice.
and I feel like we should do more like this. This was a really good move and a really good thing for Tony the Toy Rat.
Nice. Dude, that's sick. I'm so excited to hear about stuff like that. I'm so excited about all these opportunities that have opened up towards you and
Oh
that
yeah,
are rolling with, you know. But it shows you the hard work, dude, it pays off. Like you
yeah,
just gotta put in the drive and just put it in. And it takes time for some people, and it just depends who you communicate with. You never know if you're gonna be in the right place at the right time, but always talking to people like what you were saying, and that's going to lead to opportunities. Like embrace your
yeah,
community, like embrace, in social media, in the sense that that can open up things for you and not like discourage you, and that could keep people like excited for your work, and as they see it progress and stuff like that. Like
oh
there's so
yeah,
many ways to look at it in a positive mindset instead of being negative, because it's very easy to be negative about almost anything when it comes to social media or creative endeavors in general.
yes. Negativity will hold you back. So,
Dude, this has been a wonderful, wonderful, like, interview with you. And this has been packed with information and packed with things that I think we needed to hear from an artistic point of view to kind of move forward. And always just like what the goal of the show is just to stay inspired. And I think you're a perfect like example of that, and how you
appreciate
can
it.
overcome those things and like really make it happen if you try, and I love hearing that.
Sure.
So why don't you tell us where we could find you and where we could find your work and what you're going to be up to for the rest of 2024?
You can find me on Facebook by my name, Darryl Murphy. Instagram at Darryl the Artist Official _. Also have the same name on TikTok, Darryl the Artist Official _. Working on a website right now for people to go to, but it'll probably have the same name for the website as well, so I don't confuse anyone. But um, for the rest of the year of this year, I'm going to be doing these projects for Upper Deck, these Marvel projects. So once I finish those, I'm going to be finishing up Revagen issue 3, and I'm going to get issue 4 started. Hopefully, I can finish issue 4. I have another book with WTF Comics called Miserable Monsters. We're working on the 3rd issue right now, so hopefully finishing up that one before April or May. But as of right now, that's all I'm be doing for this year. So I don't want to add on too much, and then because I have school as well, and then Comic Cons to go to. So
Yeah, it's one of the things you look at your blueprint for the year sometimes you're like, dang, I hope I can do this. Happens. Daryl, this has been so enlightening. So thank you so much for your time. We'll have a link to everything in the and below. Also, there's a link to check out a survey we have for the show to see what you guys like, what you guys don't like, what you want to see more of, and everything. And don't forget about all the wonderful Kickstarters going on in the background right now. So check your social media posts and be sure to share that love to anyone running a Kickstarter at the moment. And for everyone in our audience, don't forget, have fun, keep creating, and stay inspired. Looking for high quality printing, fast turnaround, and the industry's best customer service? Look no further than Comics Wellspring. Trusted by thousands of indie comic creators, Comics Wellspring is proven to be the go-to comic book printer. So when you're ready to bring your comic books to life, go to comicswellspring.com and be sure to check out one of the best platforms to sell your physical and digital comics online, the CWS Bookstore. Remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell to see our lives come out twice every single week on YouTube and podcast platforms. And also tag us when you share your favorite episodes and moments from the show. And remember, creators, thanks for hanging, keep creating, and stay inspired.
Bring your comic books to life and print your comics with